Programs perform operations on data, and programs typically get that data from locations that are outside of the program. And we call this type of data input. Any piece of data that comes into the program from the outside world, the world that is outside of the program. We call that piece of data input. A common source of input is the keyboard. You'll be writing lots of programs that instruct the user to enter data at the keyboard, and the program will get that data from the keyboard and perform some operation with it. For example, suppose you're writing a program that calculates the user's gross pay. Well, you would instruct the user to enter the number of hours that he or she worked. So the user would type that at the keyboard, and the program would get that piece of data from the keyboard. Then you would instruct the user to enter his or her hourly pay rate. The user would type that at the keyboard, and the program would get it. And then it would perform the necessary operations. In Python, to read a piece of data from the keyboard, you will use the input function. Now, the input function works like this. It displays a prompt on the screen, and a prompt is just simply a message that tells the user what to do. Something like, how many hours did you work, or enter your hourly pay rate. So it displays a prompt on the screen, and it waits for the user to type something on the keyboard and press the enter key. When the user presses the enter key, the input function gets the data that was typed, and it returns that data to the program. The program typically assigns the data to a variable, and then it goes on from there. Now, to demonstrate how the input function works, I'm going to type a simple statement here in idle. Now, before I press the enter key and execute this statement, let's take a look at it. So I'm calling the input function, and inside the parentheses, notice that I have this string that says, "What is your name?" That's the prompt that we're going to see on the screen. So it's going to prompt me with this question, "What is your name?" And I will type, I'll type my name and press the enter key. And then the function will return whatever I've typed on the keyboard. It will return that value, and that value will be assigned to a variable called name. Okay, well, let's try it out. Okay, there's the prompt, "What is your name?" I'll type my name and press enter. And so at this point, we should have a variable called name, which exists in memory, and it should be assigned the value that I typed at the keyboard. If I want to see if that's true, I can just type the variable's name here at the prompt and press the enter key, and the interpreter will show me the value that that variable is currently assigned. So this tells us that the name variable is assigned the string Tony. Okay, well, what if we want to get the phone number? Let's type another statement. Phone equal input. What is your phone number? Press enter. So here's the prompt. What is your phone number? 555-1212. So at this point, we should have a variable named phone, which is assigned this value 555-1212. Let's just have a look. I'll just type phone and press enter, and it shows us that indeed the phone variable references this value 555-1212. Now, there is something important that you need to remember about the input function. The input function always returns the value that the user has typed as a string. As you saw, the name variable is assigned the string Tony, and the phone variable is assigned the string 555-1212. So when the user types input at the keyboard, the input function always sends it back as a string. Even if it's a number, it's sent back as a string. For example, look at this statement, x equal input enter a number. Okay, so I'm telling the user to enter a number, and the value that is entered is going to be assigned to the variable x. Okay, enter a number. Okay, well, the number that I'm entering is 10. So now, if I want to see the value that x is assigned, I'll just type x, and notice that x is assigned the string 10. It's actually the character 1 followed by the character 0, so it's a string. Now, this is important to remember because you can't do math with strings. When you're writing a program that needs to get numbers from the user, and the program is going to perform math with those numbers, then you'll have to convert them from strings into a numeric data type, such as an int or a float. And that's where the numeric data conversion functions come into play. For example, suppose I want to assign a numeric value to the num variable, and I'm going to get that numeric value from the user. Okay, well, I'll first start, since let's say we want it to be an integer, I'll first start with the int function, which the int function takes a value and converts it to an integer. So what is the value? Well, it's the value that comes out of the input function. So then I'm going to call the input function, and I'm going to prompt the user to enter a number. Okay, so now let's look at this before I press the enter key. So we have what's called a nested function call. We have a function call that is nested inside of another function call. First, we have the input function, which is going to display the prompt to enter a number, and it's going to wait for me to type something on the keyboard. And then the value that is returned from the input function is going to be passed as an argument to the int function. The int function will convert that value to an integer, and then the result will be assigned to the num variable. So to make that long story short, we are asking the user to enter a number. The value that they type at the keyboard is converted to an int and assigned to the num variable. Let's try it out. Enter a number, 10, and there we have it. Now I'm going to look at the num variable, and you can see that the num variable is assigned the value 10, and we don't have those quote marks around 10, so this indeed is a number. If you want to convert the user's input to a floating point number, a number that has a fractional part, then you'll use the float function to perform that conversion. For example, here's a statement, temperature equal, and we're going to get as input the temperature. Okay, so what's happening here is that we are getting a value from the user, and we are converting that to a float, and we are assigning that float value to the variable temperature. Okay, what is the temperature? 87.5. So now let's look at the value of the temperature variable, 87.5. And indeed this is a numeric value, a float numeric value. We don't see the quote marks surrounding the value.